Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. I want to encourage you guys, if you're at all interested in potentially working for MLG, potentially working in the game development industry, which of course is a very big industry, much larger than the little specific niche category of esports. One of the best ways to get started in that industry is to differentiate yourself on your education. If you're interested in getting educated in game development, video engineering, audio engineering, 3D animation, all these cool technical aspects of developing games and putting on esports programs, go to fullsail.edu/MLG, and they'll give you information about their various programs to help you get a head start on today's modern world. Jumping on to our show, we're going to go over MC versus MVP game number 3. The series is tied up 1-1, and this game, there's a couple cool things that happen. Is one, MVP mixes up his build, switching to a bio-heavy opening. MC still goes with that Oracle harass. We're going to talk about how to use oracles versus a bio-heavy opening. Then we're going to talk about distracting an opponent and key times to make a sacrifice. Then we're going to talk about the situation after a successful oracle harass. We saw it in Game 2. What the situation was after the oracle gateway timing was unsuccessful, the advantage MVP had, and how to play to turn that advantage into a win. Now we're going to take a look at the Protoss side. If the opening goes slightly in your favor, how can you convert that successful harass into a game win? So now we're going to jump into the game at the 6:30 mark. And what we're going to talk about, we're going to just look through MC's point of view. Doing that Mothership Scout again and again. He's gained expansion, but after he gets to Stargate and starts producing those oracles. So he scouts, sees multiple barracks, right? And then he sees a factory being just started here, right? So what he knows is that it's a bio-heavy opening. There's no Widow Mines, but there's going to be a lot of Marines. This many Marines early on. If it's a few Marines and a Widow Mine, you can run it with one Oracle, right? Avoid the Widow Mines and do some damage. But versus this many Marines, you can't do any damage with one Oracle. It's as long as your opponent controls well, you're not going to be able to engage that many Marines at once. So, MC knows this, and instead he hides the Oracle. Because what you can do is you can wait for a bunch of Oracles, and then all of a sudden you have enough to deal with a pack of Marines. And if your opponent splits their Marines in too many locations, yes, it's enough to beat 1 or 2 Oracles. If you wait for a large pack, all of a sudden you can strike quickly and decimate them before they're ready, as long as they don't know you're going for that Oracle build, right? Because all MVP knows that his opponent did a late expansion. There's some tech play. He might suspect Oracles, but maybe because he suspects, maybe he should get the missile turrets, but he's not absolutely certain, so he's not going to do that. And most of your opponents won't be absolutely certain either, unless they get that scan off or unless they know what's going on. So if you see a bio-heavy opening, wait for a more significant pack of Oracles before you move in. When it does come time to move in, you should know one thing. Oracles are frail and high-damaging units. Right? There's a lot of units in that category. Sometimes people call them glass cannons. Oracles only have 160 life for a unit that costs 150 gas and 150 minerals. They die very quickly to Marines, but their damage output is absolutely insane. They two-shot Marines and SCVs. So, if you can catch your opponent off guard for even a second or two, it can make a big difference when using these high-damage, low-life units. A great way to do that is by a sacrifice. So you send in a Mothership Core from a certain angle, right? And all you're doing is you're just pissing him off. And when your opponent all of a sudden goes to react, right? If you watch these Marines, right now MVP has stim. If you try to run, it's 11 Marines, 4 Oracles will beat 11 Marines no matter what. But if MVP's screen is right here, right? If his screen is at this moment right on this location, what he can do is he can quite easily stim his Marines, right? And he could either run them away and run the SCVs away, or he could stutter step forward into the Oracles, and he could pick off the first one almost instantly, and the second one would probably maybe die. The other 2 Oracles, while the first 2 die, might kill the Marines, but you're going to lose 2 Oracles right off the bat most likely, and that's going to be very bad for you. You don't want to trade 2 Oracles for even 10 Marines. It's a bad trade for the Protoss. Meanwhile, the SCVs will get away, more Marines will come in, your damage won't be done. But if we look at where MVP's screen is right now, it's most likely, we can see he's actually clicking right here, right? Typically, people click in the middle of their screen. It's for some reason, almost everyone moves their screen so that the middle's where they click. Typically, it's not always, but he's trying to kill this Mothership Core. So if you notice that MVP's Marines are actually running this way, they're splitting up, going half in each direction. They're not using stim because they say, hey, there's this Mothership Core. It's going to beat on my command center. I can run there, get a free kill, and it'll be great. And because he's distracted even for a second, these Oracles get in here, and they're already activated their beams. They're mowing down the Marines. They've closed the distance. Remember, Oracles have short range, only range 4. So typically against a pack of stim Marines, the Oracles might lose the first one before they can really close the distance. But here, by the time the Marines start shooting back, instead of 11 Marines, there's only 3 left. Because Oracles are so damaging, with the distraction, there is no stim, there is no Marines grouped together focusing on Oracles one by one, and the harass was way more successful using that distraction. If we jump back in the game, you can see here, not only does he kill all these Marines, he then gets several SCV kills, and now he still has 4 Oracles, and more Marines are using a time warp there to even slow the Marines. They're kind of spread out, they're coming in a little bit single file, and he is actually going to take out the rest of these Marines as well. Losing 2 Oracles at this point, but if you look at the tab, he's killed 31 units for those 2 Oracles, so a very effective harass. He's going to continue doing even more damage here because all the Marines are dead, and eventually the Marines will rally out. I mean, this one Oracles, or eventually the Oracles run out of energy as well, though they have a lot because they saved up. But doing astronomical damage and significantly ahead now. Of course, eventually Oracles will run out of energy and run away, but if we look at the situation now, 44 units killed, 17 of them were workers. Look at units lost, massively in MC's favor. Now let's think about the exact situation. So he killed a lot of units, but it was mostly Marines. In fact, if you look at the economy, he's up by 17 workers, but his opponent is building a 3rd command center. His opponent has double mules. He's ahead in economy, but not by that much. And the key thing to think about is, right now, he does have 50 pros versus 33 workers, so he is ahead in economy, but he cannot get more ahead in economy unless he wants to invest in a 3rd base, which comes with a host of problems for a low-tech Protoss to try to cover 3 bases because he doesn't have Blink, Charge, Storm, Upgrades, Colossi. So unless he wants to try to take a 3rd base right now, he cannot improve his economy because he's already at 2 base saturation, or very close to that. His opponent can continue improving economy. So right now he's a small economic advantage, but that advantage will go away over the next 30 seconds. Now, if we look at infrastructure, right, let's take a look at structures. He has just started his robo facility. He's just finishing up, but he's basically still on Stargate and gateways, similar to what he was at in the last game. And if we take a look at what MVP has, he's got 3 barracks, all with their add-ons. He's got a starport ready. In fact, the starport, if you jump in this game, it's already reactoring out medevacs. So he's got the starport reactoring out medevacs. He's got 3 barracks, all with add-ons. He's got great infrastructure and a good tech. If you go to Army, that's a situation where MC is ahead. Right now, we can see he's got a significant Army advantage. So he's a little bit behind in tech. His economy, he's slightly ahead. That will slowly equalize. But he does have a larger army. And you know, he massacred a ton of Marines right now. So what that means is if you say, okay, I've killed a bunch of my opponent's units, I'm behind in tech, but I have an army advantage. Now, if I play passive for the next 20 minutes, both these armies will go up at roughly similar rates as the economies are roughly even, which means that my advantage of having 1,000 more resources in my army, or actually almost 2,000 more resources in my army, will decrease, because 2,000 more resources when it's 3,000 to 1,000 is triple. But when it's like, you know, 12,000 to 10,000, it's not as big of a difference relative to your opponent's army. So what he wants to do to take advantage of his army strength right now, he could either try to take a 3rd base, because he knows he has strong enough army to protect it, but with low tech against medevac drops on a map like Whirlwind, where they can jump between your 3rd and your main easily, that can be very tricky. And he knows his opponent's 3rd is almost done. If he takes a 3rd and plays defensively, his opponent will have a 3rd as well. It'll go to the longer game where maybe he's up by a little bit of food. They could very well equalize, especially when you consider his opponent has a +1 upgrade already and he doesn't have any forges. So instead of trying to play catch-up in tech and economy, and then it goes to a long game when it'll get fairly equal, he'll still have a small advantage. What he's going to do, he's going to say, I have a massive army advantage. I'll go for a timing attack, add purely gateways, 3 more gateways, and go for Colossi, and try to kill my opponent while my army advantage is still very relevant, right? So he knows he got a massive army advantage. He's going to hit a timing attack, so his current 20 food advantage is percent-wise a massive advantage. As the foods get higher, it'll get smaller. But if you can hit a timing attack right now, with all these warp gates, he can be very strong. Doing additional scouting, even delaying his opponent's extra production for a little bit longer. Anything he can do to keep that army advantage is going to be in his favor. So going forward, we can see that's exactly what he's going to do. Of course, he wants to wait for the Colossi range. He wants to wait to make sure there's no drops in place, so that's why he scouted again. And he's going to try to set up some proxy pylons. So just covering all his bases, pretending to take a third base, and MVP is the one who's actually moving out here. But MC is the one going for a time attack, so MVP has got to get out of here, or he's going to be in a massive amount of trouble. He realizes it, boosts the medevac, stem to bio, runs away. But now MC is on attack, taking out the Widow Mines, even doing a little bit of damage. And at this point, of course, the Stalkers can't do too much on his own. Revelation lets him keep track of the army. He's got the proxy piling up, a massive Orpin, and right now, you look at it, the economy's pretty much evened up. In fact, MVP's ahead in economy now, especially with his third base. But back to army sizes. With the additional production that MC invested in while his opponent was setting up that third orbital, producing probes, getting upgrades, was unable to add in that fourth and fifth barracks. We can see here, now he's up by, what's that? Almost 8,000 resources versus 4,400. So he's up now by 3,500 resources, basically double his opponent. And if he strikes right now, before his opponent's tech really kicks in with a lot of Marauders and upgrades, he's going to have a massive advantage because there's not many Vikings. Even though Blink Stalkers aren't that great against Bio, they're really good at picking off the few Vikings there are. And once they pick off those, the force fields and the Colossi and the sheer number of units that MC has at his advantage are going to prevail. Of course, taking out the Vikings, one Colossi fell, but the other one is a massive damage here. And MVP, you know, yes, he's got 2-2 underway. Yes, he has a third base. But his production is at 5 barracks right now against 6 warp gates, and there's too many units of MC on the field. He can't keep up with it. MC is going to push through and grab that win. And if you think about it, if this situation waited 1 or 2 more minutes and the Bio army was increased by a little bit, that battle would have been winnable for MVP. And, of course, as the game goes later, it's going to be more and more in his advantage because while MC was investing into Oracle's harass with, MVP was investing into upgrades. So as the game goes on, the advantage of that harass doing well will be mitigated, and the upgrades and the higher medevac count will really start playing a major role. So looking back at that game, a couple important things is, one, if you're Terran and you know they expanded late for tech, it might be worth it getting those missile turrets just in case. They'll stop DT harass, they'll stop Oracle harass, and allow you to put all your Marines more centralized. And the great thing about that is, of course, you already have the eBay anyway for the upgrade, so it's only spending 200 minerals. The other option is, of course, to do a lot of Terrans do, and just get Widow Mines. Widow Mines are so versatile throughout the game. We saw MVP actually got a couple later on. Why not work him in early in the build? A lot of the reason people did these really bio-heavy openings before is they could threaten timing attacks, but now with that Mothership Core out, you really can't do too much with the bio early. It's not too bad to tech 10 mines, a little bit faster, get a couple out, and then catch up in that bio count because Oracles can be devastating without the appropriate defense. If you're playing on the Protoss side, you kill a ton of Marines with the Oracle harass. You've got to realize that as the game goes on, killing those Marines, the effect will be diminished because you sacrifice investments for the mid-game. You sacrifice the upgrades. You sacrifice the faster Colossi tech. You sacrifice the Twilight tech, etc. So you want to capitalize on your advantage by trying to come up with a timing attack that hits sometime in the next 3 to 4 minutes at the latest. And that's exactly what MC did. After he did massive damage, he struck at about the 13-minute mark, or no, sorry, it's a 14-minute mark as we start moving out, and the damage was done at a 10-minute mark. So you want to do 3 to 4 minutes. If you wait too long, your opponent can recover. And this was the top end. Like another minute, an MVP would have held any timing. So 4 minutes is at the most a time attack you want to try to hit. And if you do it right, though, if you kill a lot of Marines early, you're going to have a big enough advantage. You can just roll them over with a great time attack before they can catch back up and get to the late game where anyone can win. This wraps up the analysis for game number 3 of MC versus MVP. We're going to skip game number 4. It's a really fast and dirty game. MVP got caught off guard by a nice little timing. Go check out that VOD, though, youtube.com. That's official MLGSC2. So instead of doing that, we'll take a break and then go on to the question and answer period.